Hi, everyone. I hope you are staying well and maybe cool, right? Because it's so hot outside right now. It's too bad we can't gather together in person, but this is a great substitute. Please feel free to listen to this over and over again, to stop it and do some searches to kind of replicate what I'm doing. And, take your time with it because you have plenty of time to soak in this information. You don't have to watch it all in one sitting. So keep that in mind. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to do better ancestry searches. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start off with some information about ancestry and its collections, and then we'll get into the searching. So if you are ready, let's get started. So first, what I want to talk about is what's on Ancestry. And the reason I want to talk about this is because that can help us as we search. So this might seem like, well, what do you mean what's on Ancestry? Well, Ancestry has digitized records. And you know that. You love digitized records, right? So those are records and they come from all kinds of different places, and we'll talk about that in a second. They also have digitized books and periodicals, and that's not always so obvious because they don't have a collection called digitized books and periodicals, but they are found throughout the collection. They have indexes, and maybe the one you're most familiar with is one for California Vital Records. Indexes aren't the best source, but they are a good finding aid so we can find the originals. And then they have user-submitted content. So what is that? That is content that you provide. And how do you provide it? Well, you add your family tree on Ancestry, you take a DNA test, you upload photos to your family tree or documents, you add comments. So you participate in the message boards. Those are all user submitted content. So that's where Ancestry, that's some of what's on there. Now, that information is on Ancestry in different ways. So for example, the books, the periodicals, those are what we call OCR'd, optical character recognition. And that happens with newspaper websites as well. It's a software program that reads the content, and then the search engine allows you to search on it. It's trying to match characters that you type in with the characters it found in that newspaper. Some of the content is indexed and or transcribed. We see this with the US Census, for example. So the content is indexed by people so it can be found. And then like in the census, when you first get to you find your result, a box pops up and it tells you a little bit about what's found on that census before you look at the actual record. That's transcribed. Now, the problem is that there can be errors in that, and so that sometimes happens. And then some content is digitized, but it has no text. And we'll talk about that a little bit, but that is like in their photograph collection. And so not everything on Ancestry is searchable by text. And then some of it's uploaded, right? Ancestry uploads content, you upload content, so some of it is that. So let's talk a little bit about where does this stuff come from? Well, I already told you some of it's user submitted. You provided that. Other people have provided that. Some of the content is from government agencies. So the majority of the census is from the National Archives, for example. Vital record information is from vital record repositories like state boards of health. Some of it is from Family Search. So yes, Family Search does give content to Ancestry. It gives content to MyHeritage, to Find My Past. And so that's why in some cases you'll find something on Ancestry and you'll find it on Family Search. But there might be a little difference. It might not be indexed on Family Search, but it is on Ancestry, for example. There are partner collaborations. In fact, I was just thinking about that Ancestry got some information from California State Library. And so they go to an entity and say, hey, we want this. And that entity says, okay, and they either come to a financial deal or a deal that provides their members access to Ancestry or something like that. Some of the content is from Ancestry, from one of their properties, including Find a Grave. And so some of that, when you do a search, you get results from Find a Grave. And then other content that they acquire from, individuals, from businesses, from all sorts of places. In fact, we'll look at the postcard collection, and that comes from individual's business. So let's talk a little bit about searching. Now that you have a sense of what does Ancestry have and where did they get it from, let's talk about searching. And we're going to concentrate on the homepage search, the search page, which is found by going to the black toolbar at the top, clicking on search, and then all collections, and then the card catalog. Okay, so that's what we're going to concentrate on. It's important for you to keep in mind that search engines appear on various pages of Ancestry. So you all know about the homepage search. When you go to Ancestry, it's right there. But there's also the search on the search page, which we're going to take a look at. There's also a search engine on the collections, each individual collection. So census and voter lists, for example, and immigration and vital records. All of those are a collection and they have a search engine. And then there's a search engine on each database page. Now, why should you care? Well, the fact of the matter is that general search doesn't catch everything. So going to a collection or to a database search engine can get some of the stuff that you couldn't get with that general search. Now, before we go on, let me just clarify this first. Ancestry allows you to search and to browse. So what's the difference? Searching is when you have a search engine and you enter information into that search engine. Name, date, place, birth date, birth year. So that's a search. You enter that information in, you click search, and you get results. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is the more, this isn't true for basic, but when we look at the advanced search, the more you enter, the fewer results you're going to get. And you might think, well, that sounds good. It can be, especially if you're looking for John Smith, but it can also mean that it's going to get rid of results that are pertinent to your research. So you got to be careful of that. You've got to do more than one search as well. Browsing, Ancestry in most cases, in most databases, allow you to browse. In fact, in some cases where you can't search, you can at least browse. And there's different ways to browse, but each collection has a browse ability up at the top, or each database up at the top right. Think of browsing as if I'm at the library and I want to look at the cookbooks, but I don't know what I want. So I go over to the library shelf, all the cookbooks they have. It's actually more than one shelf. And so I might look up and down each shelf to find the Mexican cookbooks that I want. That's browsing. And Ancestry allows you to do that as well. Okay? And in some cases, that's an important thing to use, especially in cases where you can't find something. All right? So here's the search engine on the home page. You know this. There's 4 boxes to fill in. First and middle name, last name, place, not where you were born, but where you may have lived, and then birth year. And then you click on search. Now, before I go to the next slide, I want you to notice that under first and middle name and last name, there's nothing, right? Well, except for the next search box, but there's no other way to filter that, okay? So I just want you to notice that. Now, as soon as I type in something, that first and middle name and last name and place gets a little drop-down menu that allows me to say, is this exact? And in the first and last name situation, is it exact? Do I want to do sounds like, or in the instance of the surname, sound X? This opens up possibilities, especially for a name that might get horribly misspelled or might sound like another name. I could use that to filter and to help my search. So keep that in mind as you're searching. So, and all you have to do is you click on that little box, the drop down comes, and you can click on as much of that as you want. Now, if you're using wildcard searches, which allow us to substitute a character for one or more letters, and Ancestry actually has one wildcard that allows you to substitute one letter and another that allows you to substitute 5 letters. You cannot use a wildcard search with this exact sound similar SoundX search. You have to use one or the other. So here's my results for Oscar. There's 515. So up at the top left, I can do some filtering those results. I could make those names maybe exact. I can make California exact. You know, the problem is he was in 3 different states, so I don't really want to make California exact because he did live in a few other states, but that's something I could do. I could also scroll down and filter by collection. Maybe I just want to start with census results, so I could click on census results. That takes me from 515 to 53, which is much more manageable. I can even look down further and I can narrow it to North America or Europe. Well, he was never in Europe, so that would even narrow that down even more if I did that. Or a date range. Now, he was mostly alive during the 1900s, so I would want to put 1900. He's not alive in the 2000s and only alive for a year in the 1800s, so let's do 1900. That lowers it down even more and makes my search results a little bit more manageable. Now, I could play with this. I could make his first name exact. And so it would just show me Oscar Philibert. Now, here's the problem. I do exact, and that does, in fact, it narrows me down to like 188 results. So that's good. But like this first one for this tree, Aaron Oscar Philibert, that's not him. The records, the first 3 are him. So it helps a little bit. But I would want to play with this and do different searches. Don't do one search and say, okay, I'm done. You have to play with it a little bit and try different things. And like I said, I could, now that I've got 188 results, I could go ahead and narrow it by North America and by 1900, and that would narrow it even more for me. Now, that was just doing that basic homepage search. So what about the advanced search? Now, an advanced search always gives you more options. So if I click on show more options, it's going to give me the ability to add other people to my search, other places to my search, and dates. I can do all kinds of stuff. So here it is, and I went ahead and I added, California is there again, but I could add New Hampshire and Massachusetts because he was in both places. I added his wife, Mary Chatham, but I need to keep in mind that that's only going to find records from when he's married. He had his whole life before he was married. So I might want to fix that, and I might want to put no wife or a father or a mother if I knew that. Sometimes what I do, if I don't know the parent's name, I at least put the father with the person's surname, assuming that they are carrying their father's surname, and that can kind of narrow that down. And you can add a keyword, you can use gender, you can use race. Some of these are not transcribed by Ancestry, so it may or may not do you any good. So this time, with adding Mary's name, I get 509 results, so a little bit fewer. Now, I can once again go over to the left and start, making Oscar exact. I can do all of these things to really get that down. The other thing I want you to be aware of is up at the top right, the default for results lists is records. And so that's what we're seeing, all these various records. I could, if I was getting too much, go up to the right and click on categories, and that will show me the results according to record categories, subject categories, and that might help as well. So there's that. And this actually is a feature you find in Family Search as well. And so there it is. And so I could go through and kind of look through and say, okay, well, I don't need that. I don't need that. He's not old enough to be a Civil War soldier. So I can kind of also make quick, go through this very quickly and see what is useful to me and what's not. For example, that top one, California voter registrations, he's in a lot of voter registrations. There's 14, and they probably are all him. So I could then click on that and just look at those results. Okay, that's the homepage basic advanced search. Now let's go to search all collections. This is one of my favorite ways to search because it offers much more options and it allows me to search by location, which I really think is one of the most important ways to search. So we're going to the top part of Ancestry, the black toolbar. We're clicking on search, and then a drop-down menu comes down, and the first choice is all collections. This allows me to search by collections, by location, and it has a search engine just on the page, okay, an advanced search engine. So here it is, search all collections. And there's the advanced search. Over on the right, if I kind of scroll my eyes down, are special collections, which is all the collections basically. So I can narrow my search by that. If I continue scrolling down, I can see this map. Now this allows me to search by location. So why does that matter? Who cares? Sometimes people get frustrated with Ancestry because they can't find something. And they're making an assumption that it's there. But if you search by location, that can help you narrow down what do they have for this location. And if you've heard me speak before, I always recommend before you subscribe to a newspaper site or a subscription site that you look, what do they have for the location my ancestor was from? Now, this is also a good way to decide whether you want to subscribe to the world view on Ancestry and not just the US. You can go in here, you can click on one of these places like Europe and see what records are for that place and see if they have stuff that you need. Now, if you just have the US, then you've got this US map. And you can either click on one of the states or you can click on the list that's there towards the bottom. Let me say this before we go on. You might notice that there's a few things missing, including Mexico and Puerto Rico, which they do have records for, but is not represented in this map. So that's where going to the card catalog is important, and we'll do that as well. So here's California. So I chose California. The default is collections. So here's all the collections that have to do with California. And I can click on individual one of these and just search that collection. And that can be beneficial actually. Over on the right, towards the bottom, it allows me to narrow, it calls by region, but you know those are counties. I wouldn't normally do that, to be honest, because as you can see, some of those counties, it says they only have one database. So like Riverside, there's 2. But there's more than that. So I wouldn't do too much of that, but I would go to these different categories, click on them, and do some searching. All right, let's now talk about the card catalog. And what I find is this is the one thing on Ancestry that a lot of people don't know about, the card catalog. Now, all subscription websites have a card catalog for genealogy. MyHeritage does. They don't call it a card catalog. Find My Past does. Family Search does. So these are kind of the place where you find everything about that one website, everything that they have. Okay, and that's beneficial because then you can see, oh, they don't have anything for this. So on the card catalog for Ancestry, you can search by title or keyword. You can browse by filters, and it's important to keep in mind that not all databases on Ancestry are searchable by name. Okay? So let's take a look at the card catalog. Here it is, and as you can see, when I did this screenshot, there were 32,000 databases on Ancestry. Okay? And so in the middle, we get the name of the database, the category, the records, how many records, and that it's new. So these are the newer ones. Over at the top left, I can search by title and keyword. Now, let me just warn you about this. I would typically, if you don't know the title, go ahead and search by keyword, but be very careful. It's very finicky, and if you're off by one letter, it will not find it. It's actually the difference between postcard and postcards. It will not find it. So keep that in mind. We can also browse by filtering. So we don't have to type in anything. We can go to category and choose a category. Then we can filter by location. And then underneath that, which you can't see, is date ranges. So we can do that. So this is a good way to find out, do they have something for the place, for the time period, for the organization that I'm interested in? This is not where you do an ancestor search. This is where you find a collection. Okay? So that's important. I know you're used to doing searches and you find people. That's not what this is. This is to get you to a specific database. So here's an example. This is the postcard example. So I searched for postcards, all one word, with an S, and I found it. There are 10 different postcard collections from around the world, including one for US, which is a larger postcard collection than the others. Here's the page for the U.S. Historical Postcards 1893 to 1960. So let's talk about this page for just a second. So at the top we have the title of our collection, U.S. Historical Postcards 1893 to 1960. Let me just warn you about those titles Ancestry gives things. Sometimes the collection includes things that are outside of that date range, so be very careful about that. Now, under that, we have a search box, and this search box is specifically for this collection. There's no names in this collection, so you can search by place and by keyword. All right, so that's another benefit of searching on the search engine for a specific database. Now, underneath that, we have the source information, and so Ancestry tells you that this is originally from MaryLMartin.com. She is a vintage postcard seller, and so she is the one who provided this information. And then below that is an about. This is always crucial, is to read all of this, because this is going to tell you what's there, what's missing, all of that. Up at the top right is the ability to browse, and in this case I could put in California, then I could put in Riverside, and then, you know, maybe schools or whatever. See how many postcards they have for Riverside County. And then they provide me with a list of other collections that are similar to this. Now, I could, if I couldn't remember that collection's name and I kept putting in postcard instead of postcards and couldn't find it, I could filter by category till I found it. So I could go over and say, well, I know it's part of the pictures collection. So I could click on that. And you can see, gosh, there's only 40 things in that collection. Then I could filter it by location. I could put in North America. So when I do that, I get 20 results. Well, I can find the postcards once I have 20 results, right? So I scroll down, there it is, U.S. Historical Postcards. Now, let me just show you this before we move on. Do you see how underneath that is Library of Congress photo collection and there's the big kind of bubble? If you hover your mouse over those databases, it will show you a little thumbnail, basically what this is, of what that collection is, when it was published, when it was last updated, and give you some information. So that can be also useful as you're doing some searching. Now, just to give you another example, here I filtered by US and then military, and then I could filter by an additional category of a type of military record because there's over 1,000 that fit US and military. And that might be a way for me to find a specific collection as well. So that's something you can do too. Now, how else can you search? Well, I already told you you can search by collection or individual databases. And there is a reason for doing that, especially if you're having trouble finding something and to kind of narrow it down. So I highly recommend that. So here's an example of a collection. This is wills, probates, land, tax, and criminal. That is the wackiest, that's almost like miscellaneous collection, right? You got everything from wills to criminal records. So I can do the search just for this collection, or I can narrow it by category. Let's say all I care about is tax lists. I can click on there and just get the tax list collection. It tells me a little bit about it and then gives me some of the featured collections that might be important to me. Let me just give you a warning, and I sort of did this before, but I'll do it one more time. Over in the featured data collections, do you see how the first one is U.S. IRS Tax Assessment List 1862 to 1918? It's easy to say, wow, that's fabulous. There's all those tax records for that long period of time. But in reality, it's not every state. And in some cases, it's only 1 year. It's not that whole span of years. So that's where you got to be careful about what assumptions you make when it has those list of years. You need to look and see, what does this include? And actually, on there, when you click on that and you scroll down, it does tell you what it includes and what years. Don't make assumptions. Now, I found through that collection this record set. It's the South Carolina Probate Records, Files and Loose Papers, 1732 to 1964. Again, one of those, woo, look at that, but it may not include all of that, so we need to be careful. Now, what do you not see on this database page? There's no search engine, is there? So that's missing. I have to browse. And to browse, I go over there to the top right, I choose a county, and then go from there. Now, over on the left, it tells me, where is this information from? And it says, originally it is from South Carolina Probate Records, Files and Loose Papers, 1732 1964, Salt Lake City, Utah, Family Search. So this is content they got from Family Search. So what you should automatically say to yourself is, does Family Search have this, and do they have a search engine for it? Is it indexed? And also, before I move on, notice it says, hey, you can learn more about this collection by clicking here and going to Family Search. So that's what we're going to do. So Family Search Research Wiki has pages for historical record collections, because remember, it's on Ancestry, but first it was on Family Search. So here it is. This wiki article tells me about that collection. It tells me what's on there, what isn't, all of that good stuff. Okay. Over on the right, there's a link at the top. I can click on it and go straight to that collection on Family Search. So right there. So here it is on Family Search, and at first it doesn't look as impressive, but it tells you a little bit about it. It gives you the source citation. It tells you there are 654,000 images. Yikes. Now, remember, I can go back to Ancestry. I can browse it. So I can choose the county and then whatever other categories are under county, and then see if they have what I need. I can even go back to Family Search and see if everything was filmed. Maybe it wasn't all filmed. All right, let's look at another example. Here's the census and voter list. So this is a category on Family Search, and up at the top right, you see you can narrow it by US, UK, Canada, and you can narrow those Canadian or those census records down. Or you can narrow it by century, 1700s, 1800s, 1900s. So that's one way I can narrow it down, or I can get to exactly what I'm looking for. Now, sometimes we get kind of stuck in our way of thinking, and we think that there's only one type of census record, for example. And this is a good example that there's more than one type. This is the New York Census of Inmates in Almshouses and Poorhouses, 1830 to 1920. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about what that means, because maybe you're not familiar with that. So, a census is just an enumeration, right? It's counting people. And there are different censuses. We're familiar with the the population schedule for the US Census, but there's censuses for organizations, for churches, that kind of thing. So this is a census of people in almshouses and poorhouses. So the poorhouse is where you go when you don't have money, but also people ended up there because they were elderly, or their family left them there, or whatever. Almshouses are basically poorhouses as well. It's just another name for it. Uh, Both can include people who had some health issues, mental health issues, women. So all kinds of people got dropped off at the almshouse or the poorhouse. Now, this is for 1830 to 1920, but once again, don't get real excited. That could actually be the place that you want. It could be a smaller time period. Now, what you should be doing is looking at this page and asking yourself, what do I see? Up at the top, we have the search engine specifically for this database. It has the boxes that match whatever's on that record. Over at the right, we can browse it. So we can choose some of the different categories and browse these records and not search them. Over at the bottom left, it tells us, where did it get this information? Well, it got it from the New York State Archives. So that should say to me, if I don't find what I expect to find, maybe I should go look at their website. So there you go. Now, I did go to New York State Archives because I wanted to see what else I could find out about this collection. And so it gave me an example of what a census card from that enumeration looks like. And so you can see this is the records of inmates from Yates County Poorhouse. And I know it's really kind of hard to see, but just so you know, there's a lot of information on this. You know, there's the name, the age, the color, the marital status, the birthplace. There's just all these different questions that were answered. So this is a fabulous resource. Now, let's look at some other things. And, you know, I've talked to you about records. I've talked to you how to search. I've given you some examples. Let's look more deeply. When you go to search Ancestry, instead of just typing something in and hoping for the best, I almost think of it as the gambling scenario where you put in, well, maybe not anymore, but you put in your quarter or whatever, and you pull down the lever and you're hoping that you're going to hit the jackpot. That's not what genealogy is, but that's what it's become. You want to ask yourself, how am I going to search? Am I going to start with that homepage search, or am I going to go to that record set? What do I want to find? What am I interested in? What can I learn from that database's homepage? You know, is there stuff missing? When was this updated? All of that. And where else is that information? Maybe you can't find it, but it's also on Family Search. Then go check Family Search out and see what you might find that you didn't find on the Ancestry, and vice versa. So here's the military records collection, okay? And this is the collection. So we've got the database or the search engine. We can scroll down, see some information. We can narrow it by category. There's some featured. We can even look at specific time periods, okay? Specific wars. Now, what I like about Ancestry and other genealogy websites is sometimes there's things that are surprising on them. And so this is one of the military records. It's the Sons of the American Revolution membership application. So not really what I would think of as a military record, but it does have to do with the military. So once again, this is 1889 to 1970. You'd have to look because that time range might be a little washy. But we have the database, we have the source information, we have information about that collection, and then over on the right we have collections that are something to do with the Revolutionary War. So this collection was donated or supplied by the Sons of the American Revolution. If you don't know who they are just like the Daughters of the Revolution, except it's men. And so it tells me that it originally came from Louisville, Kentucky, from the National Society of the Sons of the American Revolution, from 508 microfilm rolls. So they digitized the microfilm. Okay, so that's important for me to know. And then I can scroll down and it tells me more about that database. And it tells me who is SAR, what is this? So what this is these are membership applications that people turned in, men turned in, so they can become a member of the SAR. That's exactly what this is. So what do Lineage Society applications have? Well, they have things where they're trying to connect themselves back to a specific ancestor. So it has information about children to parents, all the way back to that ancestor, and then hopefully proofs. Now, does this mean this is the best thing since sliced bread? Maybe. Because some of those early applications weren't always checked very thoroughly. So it doesn't mean it's 100% correct. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So here's an example of what you could find. I put in Robert Chatham. On the left, I can see a little view of that application, but on the right, it tells me the birth date, the birthplace, death date, death place, the membership number, and some other information there. So I can go ahead and take a look. You should never just save. Take a look at the original, see what it has, and go from there. Over on the right, it has other records that may or may not be for this gentleman, but it gives me some hints. If I scroll down, there's that source information again and information about the database, but look at the right. I'm signed into my Ancestry account. Now, if you are using the library edition, you can't do this, but I'm signed in. Let's say this gentleman is my guy, and I got tons of stuff about him. I could write a comment there. And then, at some point, when someone's looking for him, they will see my comment and might contact me. Okay? That's leaving that little breadcrumb trail for people to find you. That's so important in genealogy. Now we're going to talk about finding members in a little bit, but I just want to show you that below that is also the ability to do Members Connect, where you find others who are researching the same person. So there's lots of opportunities on one of these pages, and I just wanted to show you that. Here's what part of the application looks like, just to show you. I think it's about 4 pages. Here's the end of, I don't know if this is the same one, but the beginning of the next one. And you can see here, oh, I guess it is the same person. You can look at it, you can flip through the pages and see the descent from the common ancestor. If I click on that bottom where my red arrow is, it brings up a film strip where I can go page by page and look at things. That's helpful sometimes, because sometimes you find out they didn't digitize everything. So there's a few things I could do here to explore this. And there's the film strip. Most databases you will see this film strip, and I do like to go through to see where does the information stop and start, for example, and what's missing. Now, let's talk a little bit about the importance of browsing. I'm a huge fan of browsing, and so I want you to be too. This is one of my favorite databases, so we're going to talk about this. This is called the U.S. Deceased Physician File, AMA, 1864 to 1968. Now, notice there's no search engine. And you might be saying, well, what is this? This is actually what we used to call the Dead Physicians File from the American Medical Association, or the American Medical Association's Dead Physician File. This is from the American Medical Association. They gave a copy to Family Search, as you can tell from the search information or source information, and they in turn gave a copy to Ancestry. So that's where they got this, and you can see here it says you can learn more about this collection on Family Search. So we're going to do that. Over on the right, I can browse it. It's by name range, and so I just find the name range where my person would be in between, and I can browse it. So right there. And just so you know, these cards fluctuate in what they have. They vary. Some just have a death date and not much. They're for dead physicians. Some of them have death dates, not much. Others have things about their career, their schooling, all of that. Okay, so I went and clicked on one of those date name ranges, Jenny Mary Allen to George I. Anderson. Here is the film strip. Okay, so I can see what that looks like. So there's the film. Over here it tells me it's hosted by Family Search. So I go to Family Search, and here it is. And notice something that Ancestry didn't have. There's a search engine. So I will tell you something. I have looked at this, and I've looked at it on Ancestry, and the Ancestry one is missing cards. Is that because someone made a mistake or what? I don't know, but I know it's missing cards. So if I don't find what I want on Ancestry, I might want to go to Family Search and do a search there and see what I could find. Okay. And just to give you a sense of what these are, here's one for Jenny Mary Allen. And you can see it, the transcribed information tells us that she died in 27 in Mercer County, Pennsylvania. Over on the right, you see a little thumbnail of what that card looks like. Here it is in the card catalog. And it says I can click here and go straight to the database, and we actually were there just a second ago. But I want to show you in the card catalog for Ancestry as well, because it's such an important resource. And I can actually kind of look down and see how it says subjects. I could click on one of those and I might find information that is similar that can help my research. And so there's the search engine for this collection on Family Search. Always, always, always look to see where did Ancestry get this, and then look at that original source and see if it might help you. Okay, so we've gone through a lot of searches. I've given you a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So, you know, we've gone from that homepage search, which isn't always the best search, but I've shown you the all collections. I've shown you searching by a location. I've shown you the card catalog. I've shown you how sometimes you got to look at Family Search and Ancestry together. So I've shown you all of that. Remember when we were looking at the SAR collection and there was that little comment and it showed my photo? That's because I'm signed in. So this doesn't work if you're not signed in with your account, not a library account. And it allowed me to add comments. One of the benefits of Ancestry is the ability to contact people who are Ancestry members. Now, if you do DNA, you already know how important this is. You get a match and you contact them and see if they're interested, if they have information, all of that. But it can be important for other things as well. Maybe you're searching on a name that's very unusual, and so uh, that's one way to find, other people who are searching on that surname. Maybe you're looking for a long lost cousin. There's all kinds of reasons, but finding people on Ancestry is one way that can help you with your genealogy. So this is called member search. And so what you're going to do is up at our black toolbar, we're going to click on search. And then at the bottom of that, remember it had all collections, it had some collections, it had card catalog. Below that is member search. Sometimes this is referred to as the member directory. Now, you can search two ways currently. You can search by a specific member, so their name, or by people who are interested in a surname or a location. So you can do both. Now, here's my warning about this. I don't know if you've noticed because in this recording, my photo is covering it, but if my photo wasn't up there, it says my name, Gina Philibert-Ortega. It's squished together, but it's my name. Some people get Ancestry accounts and they give themselves a clever to them nickname or moniker or whatever. And that's okay. I'm not putting that down. But what happens is it makes it difficult for people to find you if they're trying to search for you, if they don't know what that little cute tagline is. So you can search by a specific person, or you can search by the surname that you're researching or the area that you're researching. So you can do either of those. So here's mine. Now, this is my view from my account. So, anytime you look at somebody different, it's going to look different than this. But just to give you an example. The one thing I should start off by saying is always make sure you update this information. And you do this by going to the top right of that black toolbar where your name is, and there's a little downward arrow. Click on that and you can fix your profile. And you're going to want to do that. How are people going to find you if you're not part of this? So I have my photo so people can see that it's really me. I have my name. I even put down the state that I'm in. You can add as much or as little as you want. I'll tell you another reason I did this is I a few times have found items at thrift stores or antique stores and I want to reunite them. People are very leery of talking to a stranger anymore. And so what I typically do is I say, look, I'm on Ancestry. You can look me up. They've got my photo so they can see I'm legit. And so that makes them feel better. I can fill out as much of this as I want or none of it. But I would do at least some. So I can say, it'll say when I joined. But it will also, I can put what's my experience, what are my interests, that kind of thing. And so people can find me. Now, am I going to have tons of people knocking on my door? Probably not. But when that one person has great information for me, they're going to be able to find me. And then it's going to show the family trees that I have. I actually have quite a few, but it's just showing a few of them. The photo gallery I have of things I've saved on Ancestry or Ancestry stuff I've saved to trees. And then the DNA summary if you have a DNA kit. So it's going to have all that information. It's going to make it easier for people to find you and to connect with you. So I highly recommend that. Sometimes we say, well, I don't want people connecting with me, but somebody's got your information out there. Why would you not want to connect with them? You don't have to, it asks if you're willing to help people and all. You don't have to fill that out, but at least put enough information that people can find you. This is a part of Ancestry most of us forget to do, but I really want to encourage you to fill this information out and be accessible to people who might have information. Now, we've gone through quite a bit in our time together. We've talked about where does Ancestry get information, how do you search it, how do you browse it. We've gone through all of that. What I would encourage you to do now if you haven't been, is to spend some time on Ancestry conducting various searches and see what works well, what doesn't work well. Kind of see how you can improve your own searches and how you can use Ancestry better. I hope this has helped you, and I hope it gives you some stuff to think about and to try during this most interesting year. So I hope to see you again soon. Please take care of yourself and enjoy.